Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Mancina and thank you for listening. Has anyone ever made you feel uncomfortable? Sexual harassment can happen anywhere. However, it is most commonly experienced in the workplace. Do you know of someone that's been sexually harassed? Or maybe you have questions about what it looks like, or what to do if you or someone you know becomes a victim. Team Momentum, made up of myself, Christine Truskowski, Ryan Springle, Gary Francini, will explain what sexual harassment looks like and what to do if it does occur.
Hello, my name is Christine, and I am here to talk about male to female harassment. The American Association of University Women defines workplace sexual harassment as any unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical conduct of sexual nature. Sexual harassment violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. According to the National Council for Research on Women, women are 9 times more likely than men to quit their jobs, 5 times more likely to transfer, and 3 times more likely to lose their jobs because of sexual harassment. The Cosmopolitan magazine surveyed 2,235 full-time and part-time female employees and found that 1 in 3 women have experienced sexual harassment at work at some point in their lives. Out of those women, 29% report harassment, while the other 71% do not report harassment at all. Around 15,000 sexual harassment cases are brought to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission each year. Women are the victims of 89% of those claims. 43% of the women harassed were harassed by their supervisors. Being a woman in a male-dominant industry, I find this very disturbing. And unfortunately, like most women in a male-dominant workplace, I have been sexually harassed. Therefore, obviously, I have strong feelings against sexual harassment. No woman should fear going to work or feel obligated to perform sexual favors in order to keep their positions or to earn promotions. I strongly believe that employers are responsible for the conduct of supervisors and managers. Employers are also responsible to keep their employees safe from harassment, not only from coworkers, but from customers, vendors, and suppliers. It is extremely, extremely important to have a sexual harassment policy in place. An example of sexual harassment in the workplace can be something simple, such as a comment, referring to a woman as baby, or whistling at a woman as she walks by. Or it can be something much more clear, such as a supervisor making sexual advances towards an employee against their will. The employee may become afraid to say anything because they are afraid to lose their job. The next topic you will be hearing is female to male harassment.
Hello, my name is Ryan Springle. I will be discussing the topic of female to male sexual harassment in the workplace. Over half of the women in the workforce today have reported experiencing some form of sexual harassment on the job. The issue of sexual harassment of men is starting to get more media attention. The statistics show that this form of harassment has been rising over the last 14 years. In 1997, 11.6% of the charges filed were by men. In 2011, 16.3% of the charges were filed by men. But what is sexual harassment? It generally falls into 3 main forms. Sexual coercion, involving job-related threats or bribes. Second, unwanted sexual attention in the workplace. And the third, gender harassment involving hostile behavior due to their gender. All the researchers seem to be in agreement that this form of harassment happens more often but goes unreported. Men are less likely to recognize a harassment or take it as seriously as women do. In 2010, the U.S. Supreme Circuit Court of Appeals reversed a lower court's dismissal of a male coworker's claims that a married female employee made repeated sexual advances after he recently lost his wife. When the male employee complained to his supervisor, they told him he should be proud women are interested in him. This case shows the changing social and legal attitude towards men in the workplace pertaining to sexual harassment. This case also shows how important organizational policies against sexual harassment are for men and women. Employees working for organizations that tolerate sexual harassment are more likely to experience these kinds of incidents and the negative effects that harassment have on the employees. Having a gender-fair policy and training programs to curb sexual harassment needs to focus on all forms of harassment, including men and women. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you found this interesting. Next, we have homosexual harassment in the workplace.
Hi, my name is Gary Franchini, and now that we've discussed male on female sexual harassment as well as female on male sexual harassment, I'd like to shed a little bit of light on a third form, and that is same-sex sexual harassment, whether it's female on female or male on male. Now, most cases of same-sex sexual harassment are male on male, and it doesn't just have to be homosexual advances or requests or verbal actions, but it's also non-homosexual in that some male coworkers will be taunted, will receive lewd comments, jokes, questioning their sexuality, verbal, sexual, or sexual assaults, intimidation, and just overall sexually suggestive actions. Now, this is a form of sexual harassment that like I said, it might not be the most popular, but actually in the last 5 years, the number of same-sex sexual harassment charges has actually doubled. A lot of that is in part to a case back in 1999 that went all the way to the Supreme Court. And in that case, there was a male coworker that actually worked on an oil rig. He was constantly humiliated and physically and verbally assaulted by male coworkers in front of the entire crew. In one incident, the harassers actually sexually assaulted the victim with a bar of soap and threatened to rape him. The victim would continuously report the assaults and harassment to his superiors, who brushed them off because male-on-male sexual harassment was mostly just considered, I guess, a joke. Just deal with it, brush it off. It's all just fun and games. But this specific case wasn't just fun and games. The victim filed a charge of sexual harassment with the EEOC, and the employer, in its defense, argued that the harassment between the members of the same sex was not protected under federal law. But thanks to this case, it now is. It doesn't have to be opposite sex to be to be considered sexual harassment, but it can now be the same sex. And while it's not the most publicized, I would argue it is the most common, because there are tons of incidents, I would think, that aren't reported. Think of all the times that you worked with just a bunch of friends and guys would call each other homosexual slurs. Now imagine that in a male-dominated workplace, such as an oil rig, or possibly trucking, where you know, you're around men all day, you joke around, question each other's sexuality, but there's a certain line that you know, that you can't cross, and in a lot of cases, a lot of instances, that line is crossed, and it's important that we bring you know, same-sex sexual harassment to the forefront, and make sure it's known that while it's maybe not the most reported, it is still sexual harassment and should be treated as such.
I hope this leaves you informed and empowered to stand up against sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is real, whether it's male to female, female to male, or same sex. It affects everyone. Your voice really does matter. You can make the difference. Thanks again for listening in.